BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, it's Rob from Georgia, aka VHS82 apostrophe, and with us for the first time, James Cowx.
Finally made it.
Welcome, Mr. Cowx. Welcome to the forum, roundtable, whatever you want to call it. How are you this early morning?
Sunny Finland is treating me well. Very early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, I speak for all of us. I think we really appreciate this. It's awesome having you in. So today, I think the focus is scariest moments, either seen in a film, or even possibly a TV episode of something. I think James had something along that lines. So scariest moments. We'll do a quick round table of our honorable mentions, sort of quick and then we'll go top of the order with Glenn and our top five, number 5, work all the way down. So go ahead, Glenn, take us, get us started with honorable mentions.
Okay, I got 3 honorable mentions, and I have a reason for putting each of these into the honorable mentions. First up is Frozen. I put that, the reason I put this into an honorable mention is if you don't live near snow or ice, like if you live in somewhere like Florida or whatever, you can't really relate to this. I live in Canada. We get snow or whatever. This actual event sort of thing, a while back, something very similar happened. There was like some guys in the woods, whatever, being stalked by wolves at one point. And people have been stuck up on ski lifts, but it's a very niche fear. So I decided, keep it in honorable mentions. Next up is the first Conjuring movie. You can't see that very well. It's a custom cover. My thing with that, it terrified me the first time I saw it. After that, it started losing its effect. So that's why, it's an honorable mention. And last up, this is essentially the entire series, but Ju-on, The Grudge, the original Japanese. I still find them scary, but, I couldn't just pick one. I'd do the entire series. And, if I'm going to have 5, I want 5 separate things. I don't want to be like, this entire series, but, it is what it is, right? So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I got to do them quick.
Wow.
Excellent. I totally get Frozen. Living in Finland, I've just finished up, well, not just, a few months ago, almost 6 months of snow. So totally get that. And the wolves coming across the border from Russia. So yeah. Terrifying. It doesn't sound that terrifying, but then if you just sit and think about that, you're kind of stuck out in the woods with the snow when no one's around and there's wolves following you. It's utterly terrifying. You're just saying it in a quick sentence, though. It doesn't really sink in.
No.
Yeah. Great choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Cowx.
All right. I'll jump in. Right. As I was talking to you guys, I kind of don't have like a solid list. It kind of all changes. It depends on the mood, but I can kind of pull 3 as honorable mentions. So the first I don't actually own, but it's the TV series Fear itself, and the episode is Skin and Bones. That one with Doug Jones. How that's set up, that's kind of like the character of Doug Jones. So yeah, he's kind of he's on the farm, he goes missing up in the mountains and stuff like that, comes back and it's not him. And the editing on that and how he looks and the sounds and the screaming of the character, even now it kind of still gets me. And I saw this quite a few years ago. So that's the first honorable mention, that very specific episode. The second, I think I'm going for, what would the character be? I can't remember. This is the problem when you do it at 5 o'clock in the morning. Which sin is it? The one where he's in the bed.
Oh,
That
Um,
and they
Well,
think he's
Oh,
yes, yeah, they think he's dead, and then they're
Oh,
leaning
yeah.
over him. That whole setup, they think they've got John Doe. They get there and it's just what's this? You got all those like the car air fresheners and everything. So, and then when he moves that first time, such a good scene, such a good scene. And the third one, I've gone for a gothic folktale of Hagazusa.
Oh,
This is very, very atmospheric, but the bit that really gets me from the whole movie, you know it's coming, and when it finally hits, when she has the baby in her arms and she slowly walks into the water, that is a horrible, horrible scene, and she comes back and she's just dumped the baby in the water. That's such a horrible, horrible. And as like I said, being as a parent, that's so scary. That scene because you know it's coming and you're dreading it, and it's steeped with so much atmosphere. This movie. So those are the three honorable mentions.
nice.
all right. Boy, this was not an easy list at all. In fact, I made a change this morning. I didn't think I would, but and it was only in the honorable section, so I thought, but I thought, yeah, because I revisited some of these scenes, and yeah, and I'm glad I changed it. But my first honorable mention, and I wish I had a better release to show you, is Friday the 13th, Part 3. It's at the end when in Chris's dream sequence, when she wakes up in the canoe or whatever she's in, and she looks up towards the barn and she sees Jason in the window peering out without his mask on.
Yeah.
That, aside from one moment in part two, that might be clearly the scene that has always haunted me. I think in the entire franchise. I don't know. And when you see him come out of the barn, out of the building or whatever, the makeup effects, having had just the axe in his head and everything, and then just the rigidness of his jaw and his teeth and everything, the crazy look. I think it was was Brooke was it Brookhiser? What was the guy who played Jason?
Oh.
Who was it, Lonnie?
Richard Brooker?
Brooker, yeah, Richard Brooker, yeah. I think he might be my favorite Jason. That look is maddening, man. That's enough. You don't even need mom to jump out of the water at that point because, and then and just Chris's hysterics, just being led into the car. In fact, it's funny revisiting it tonight how the deputy just kind of throws her into the car. He's like, shut up, you don't know what you've been through tonight. And I don't know, she might be the most hysteric driven final girl of a Friday movie. I mean, unless somebody can think of a better one, she might be the one most in hysterics, at least that's believable. She really does look like she's on her way to an insane asylum. But anyway, so Friday 3, and that actually pushed out one. The other two go right into my youth, man. And this one doesn't quite live up today as it did as when I was a kid, but it lives again.
Ooh.
And the scene is when one of the babies gets under the covers in the bed when one of the doctors, I guess, gets into the bed, and you see the hump down at the end of the bed, and the hump starts to move, and he thinks he sort of jumps, and then it's sort of nothing, sets his clock, lays down, and then that thing just, man, tears into him. That gave me nightmares as a kid. But it was worse one night when I literally woke up. I had a nightmare of sorts. I woke up and I was in such a fright. I looked down towards the end of my bed because I think the movie was still fresh in my head. And I literally saw a little hump under the covers of my bed. And I didn't know if I was still dreaming or what it was. So I went to kick at it. My cat was under there. And when I kicked, the cat dug its claws into my feet. Dude, I flew out of the bed, man. I was in absolute hysteric screaming. And this movie, man, multiple babies crawling around. Now, it doesn't quite have the same impact today, but when I was a kid, man, it gave me freaking nightmares. The other one that when I rented it on VHS that I had a hard time getting through sometimes, for one scene in particular, He Knows You're Alone.
Oh, nice.
It's the scene where, God, I'm trying to think of her name now. It's the girl when she's laying down on the floor of her living room and she's got the headphones on and she's smoking a doob and looking at the fish tank. And I revisited that scene tonight. I always thought as a kid that the camera's up looking straight down and it's sort of a slow motion effect where he sort of comes into frame, grabs her by the head with the knife and just. But my perception angle of that scene is not quite the same as it was when I was a kid. Now I watch it and I realize you see him actually come into frame at the other side of the room. Then he must make his way around, and then you see his hands slowly move in. And but as a kid, man, that scene freaking terrified me. I don't know what it was. Just the overhead look down and the slowness of it. Of just, I don't know. It that really. And I think though when the killer's arm comes through the small window pane of the door in the final chase scene is pretty heightened. But yeah, that's a slasher that used to give me nightmares as a kid. Sam had real quick his Phenomena is an honorable mention. And he says why. Oh yes, I agree with him completely. When she's in the pit of the dead bodies and stuff at the end. But what makes that scene for me is Daria walking around with her maniacal laugh. That scene always got me, man. He's got that as one honorable mention. The other is Suspira when she discovers the secret door. And I don't know if he's meaning the iris or the door where the living dead girl comes out, but and then honorable mention 3. Oh yes. And he did want me to say these really are predicated on the first time he ever saw these movies. So this third one is a little bit odd, but it got to him. And it's the in Batman Returns, the cat scene when the cats go after what's her name and she ultimately becomes the cat girl. Yeah, I think it was the idea of all the multiple cats coming in kind of freaked him out a little bit as a kid. But so that's his honorable mentions. All right, Lonnie.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think you guys pretty much already know this because I mentioned it, up in front. But one of my honorable mentions is going to be In the Mouth of Madness, because there's like one, the whole movie has very scary. Well,
it was so scary that his camera fell over.
Yeah.
See, it scared me so bad it made me drop my phone. Hang on. Okay, I think we're good again. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, so this movie, like, it has so much, scary atmosphere and stuff like that in it. Like one scene, like when she's going to the church, to find Sutter Kane, and got those deformed children there. It's like, you're my mommy. You know what today is? Today's mommy's day. But like the one scene that really, really creeped me out was when he goes into the bar and the guy shoots himself. Then like when he comes out of there and you see all the deformed people lined up and they're like slowly starting to come towards him. Then he gets in the car, he gets her in the car and all that. He's finally able to drive out. And then, like just when you think he's out and, the flash, and then he's right back where he's at, and they just keep coming closer and closer. And then he does it again. And like every time he tries to keep getting out and all that, it's like, it just keeps, and to me, that was just such a creepy, that was one thing, like a lot of John Carpenter movies, like, Same thing like Halloween 3, like when Tom Atkins' character goes into the hotel room to, to get her so they could leave. Then he looks outside, you see all those guys in the suits lined up. It's like, ugh, and then they start coming, just like, I don't know. That always creeps me out. Something like that, like the slow coming towards you and stuff. Ugh.
Mhm.
So yeah, that scene from In the Mouth of Madness, that's definitely one. This one here, yeah, this is pretty much a no-brainer for me, but I went ahead and went with Drag Me to Hell. And just a lot of creepy scenes in this movie. Like, the part in the movie, like when she gets into the car and you see that handkerchief kind of floating around and everything else. The course, of course, you see the classic, what they call the classic, the car from Evil Dead. But they like she sees and the woman comes out of the back seat and she's like, "You shamed me." Scary, but also too, the one scene that I thought was super creepy was that daytime scene where she sees, like the demon is coming forward and like she's running up the steps and you can see the shadow on the walls like it's falling up the steps after her, and then she goes in the room is like the shadows like underneath is like it's trying to reach for her, and she gets flung around the room and everything else. And I remember that creeped me the hell out. I was like, okay, that's a very effective scary scene. And then of course other scenes in the movie, but yeah, so Drag Me to Hell is definitely a honorable mention. And this one's probably going to be surprising, but okay. I went with Garfield's Halloween Adventure. Um,
Okay.
I mean, plainly, okay, I was like real little. I don't remember how young I was, but I was real little when I saw this. And at first, you're watching it and it's like it's super funny and all that kind of stuff. It was like my mother like pretty much fell out of the chair laughing. That part where Garfield and Odie go up to the door and they're like, "I'm going to show you the proper way to trick or treat." And knocks on the door. She opens the door. Gimme. It's like the funniest thing ever. But the thing was, like, what scared me so bad about this was being a real little kid, and it's like it's funny and everything else. Was like when they get to that cabin, and then that guy tells them the story about the ghost pirates and stuff. It was like, okay, that's a little spooky. But then, like when Odie and Garfield try to leave, then you see the ghost ship coming, and then you see the ghosts of the pirates, and they're coming in there. It's like that scared the hell out of me as a little kid. That terrified me. So yeah, that's going to be my other honorable mention is Garfield's Halloween Adventure.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, we ready for number 5?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So number 5, I had to go with it. The Changeling.
Nice.
And what makes this scary for me is it's kind of unique. What makes it scary? There's no scene in particular, but what it is what's his name? Who's in it? George C. Scott, right? That's who's in it, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, it's essentially he's the dude that plays Patton. So I'm used to seeing him as General Patton. And General Patton is being freaked out by what's going on in this house. And there's something about seeing somebody that you don't expect to see showing fear. It gives you like this moment of like almost like stuff is like this is much more serious than I thought. It'd be like imagine watching an X-Files episode, and in it Mulder just completely freaks out and is terrified of something. You're like, this is a guy who's like chasing aliens and everything. He's not afraid of this stuff, but now he's afraid. What is going on here? And that's what it is for me with The Changeling. Seeing George C. Scott be afraid of, a ball falling down the stairs. Something that you wouldn't think is scary. But seeing him get afraid of it gets you afraid of it as well. You're like this badass over here is scared, so what's going on here? And Also, it's just a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
You can't, and this edition is awesome.
I have that.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of why you need to be region free, people. Just saying.
Great
They get all the
casting
good
for that.
stuff. Yeah, it's so good. I love the Changeling, and it's almost pure atmosphere. And that's something also. Let's be honest. Fear is a subjective thing. Everyone has different things they're afraid of and everything, but there's something about building dread that's just effective. So yeah, my number 5 is the Changeling. Definitely recommended.
Excellent choice. Right. Kind of what you were saying about fear is subjective. Maybe with this movie it's not, because I have a feeling that this kind of freaks everyone out, horror fans or non-horror fans. I have a slipcover, but I have to not put it on because there's nudity on there. So I will show the inner artwork, the autopsy of Jane Doe. The atmosphere of this film is just absolutely fantastic. It's fantastic. And just as kind of you were saying about the Changeling, like with George C. Scott, the casting choice of this. I mean, Brian Cox, but who would have thought that Emil Hirsch? Like, really? Fantastic in this movie. Like, those two together are so good. And just how it's all built up, the dread in this movie, and how effective it is for like an adult who loves horror movies to get. It has that, like, like the dogs, the shackles on your neck. You have a hair standing up on your neck and on your arms. You're watching it. The movie has that ability. To be honest, it rarely happens, but this movie was able to do that, and it. I mean, I think everyone knows how effective this movie is. It's such a well shot movie and brilliant piece of filmmaking. So that's my number 5. Not one scene, the whole movie. I think if you take it scene by scene, it kind of loses it, but put it together, sit yourself in a dark room and watch that whole thing. Brilliant.
I think something James said earlier about the mood that we happen to be in. Things can sometimes fluctuate from one another. Seeing a film on the big screen for the first time when you've never seen a film on the big screen, and if that film already, at least initially, really effectively got under your skin, then that only gets, as I found out, that only gets amplified to some other dimensional degree or whatever. But my number 5, and I wanted to show this first because it's better than the cover of the release I have. But my number 5 compliments of a big screening of it. It is pretty much the entire third act of the film, for the most part, and that is Rob Zombie's House of 1,000 Corpses. Which, of course, I have this edition with Devils and House and the 30 Days in Hell, which is one of phenomenal documentaries. But that, I can't remember the last time I sat in a movie theater watching a film where when that third act kicks in, when they're at the pyre and you're getting to that, run rabbit run scene, and you just the atmosphere and the cinematography and compliments to Rob Zombie. There, that third act, I was feeling about as uncomfortable in that theater as I have felt in a very long time. And I don't know, it was just something about seeing it on such a big screen and the score that is there, that it's just and then they go down into the well and it just sort of takes on this weird, almost Fulcian, almost like a City of the Living Dead vibe, but then you got the incredible throwback to that scene from Spider Baby and the relatives that are living down in the muck, down in the basement, and you just, I don't know, man. And then her walk through that whole corridor of lined with corpses, and you just know with every step she takes, something more horrifying is lying in wait.
Mhm.
And I don't know, man. Because I find it really hard to get scared by that much of anything anymore. It's hard to get scared. I get unnerved. Things get under my skin, maybe, but sitting in that theater watching especially the third act forward, I thought to myself, man, this is what it's supposed to be like, man. But when you really, really can get at someone, and man, when baby freaking stabs the crap out of her in the middle of that cross-ridden sort of cemetery-ish field, and I was kind of rewatching part of it tonight, and I was thinking, could you imagine being there as police officers are uncovering everything for the first time, and going down and finding Dr. Satan's lair, and just truly it is and I don't know, man. And I can honestly say the first time, I don't know what movie it was that I was in the theater, but I was lucky enough to see the teaser for House of a Thousand Corpses before that movie got shelved.
Mhm.
And that teaser, I kind of jarred me. I would even say it probably scared me, because I was like, damn, what the heck is this coming? This is a freaking horror movie. Holy freaking crap. And then it gets delayed for a couple years or whatever.
Yeah.
But so my number 5 is Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. Pretty much the third act forward. I think it's really, really good, effective. And I'll tell you too, that movie has in my life given me some nightmares. And that's pretty remarkable considering how old I am, and that things can still do that after time. So Sam for number 5 had for his number 5, he had The Thing. And in particular, it was the Palmer transformation that really freaked him out. And that's my favorite. I think that might be my favorite transformation in the entire movie is the Palmer sequence. I freaking love that. But that is a pretty harrowing moment too. I think too, John Carpenter on his commentary track says, man, if you're really there seeing that, you're like, well, I mean, it's about all there is to that time. So, all right, Lonnie, take us home with 5.
Okay, for my number 5, this is gonna probably seem a little weird, but I went with Night of the Living Dead. The thing is like I know. I remember one time, my brother's girlfriend and I, we were arguing because we were hanging out together with my brother. Of course, we were watching an episode of The Walking Dead, and she had mentioned Night of the Living Dead, and I remember as a kid watching this movie and just the atmosphere of it, just the whole tone of it, just really scared me. Especially the opening scene in the cemetery and everything else, and then and we had talked about it, and she was all like, the zombies in Night of the Living Dead, they're not scary looking because they just look like normal people. And it's like that struck me because like that to me is exactly why they're so frightening. Because like when you watch The Walking Dead, as soon as you see the zombies, okay, instantly you're like zombie, walking corpse, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it was like it was so much scarier, I thought, in this because at the beginning of the movie, it's like Barbara and Johnny, they have no idea that that's a zombie. To them, it looks like just a regular guy. And to me, somebody who looks normal, but when you get up to them and turns out, no, they're a real threat. To me, that's like so much scarier than when you see like one of the zombies from The Walking Dead that just, like instant glance, that they're zombie, get the hell away from it,
Yeah.
and, just the idea of like something that looks normal, but when you get closer to it, it's not normal at all, and it's going to get you. And then also too, the scene that really kind of like creeped me out was when they go to get the gas, and Tom and Judy blow up in the truck, and you see Ben, and you see all of those zombies like coming in on him, and and you hear their growling and all that kind of stuff, and he's got to try to get through them all to get back to the house, and just he's so alone, and then to make it worse is Cooper locks him out of the damn house, and
Yeah.
just like and so he has to bust back in and all that kind of stuff. And then of course at the end when like they failed to save themselves, like what Ramiro says, like the idea is give them everything that they need, give them all the resources they need to save themselves, but they can't do it. They can't pull together long enough to do it. And then of course obviously like the whole movie, Judy's wondering what happened to Johnny. Then we find out and she ends up being killed by her own brother and stuff like that. That was so that would probably have to be my number 5. Just the whole idea of just like it's so creepy and scary. Like you think these people are okay, but there's something wrong with them. So yeah, so that would probably have to be my number 5. It's Night of the Living Dead.
Nice.
My number 4 actually kind of fits in with that. It's a scene in a movie, and you'll know the scene probably as soon as I hold up the movie. You know the scene I'm talking about. Dead kid at the window.
Yeah.
That scene is nothing happens, but it's terrifying. And I mean, to this day, it still creeps me out. Just then you scrape it on the window, it's like, let me in. And it's like, this is this kid's brother, And then, later on, it's his friend that he does it to. And it's like, this shouldn't be a threat. But it is. And that's just plain creepy. And also, we just got to say, the design of Kurt Barlow in the miniseries, this is a custom cover, by the way. That's why it's not the normal, normal artwork. Just so people know. The design of Kurt Barlow is just terrifying. It takes the idea of like the Nosferatu look and just kind of the blue skin. There's something about that. It's like the blue-gray skin. I don't know what it is, but it just feels wrong. That's one of the things in the original Ju-on, that I mentioned in my honorable mentions. The almost like so pale that it's almost like blue-looking skin. There's something very unnerving about it because it's almost like you have like a visceral reaction to it. Like there's some party inside saying like, I can't see this, and that falls number 4 for that reason.
Nice.
Okay, my number 4. See, I'm still trying to order them. Still clicking along in my head. I have like an additional pile that didn't even get to the honorable mentions. But yeah, because I thought this is going to be really hard. And and then I just start throwing movies and massive pile by the end of it. But I think I'm going with this because it's a joint fear by kind of a lot of people, how well this scene was created, especially when it's following such an iconic original movie. And it's The Exorcist 3. And it's even on the cover.
Oh, yeah.
Slip. Like how that film is done and how that scene is done. It's so quiet.
Yeah.
No music. This is the thing where if I jump out very quickly, I mean, I think they missed the trick with A Quiet Place. I think that should have had no music, like that whole movie, because that's one of the things when you have a horror movie like this. It's not like it's silent. You hear like hospital sounds. She's walking around and things. You can hear her feet shuffling and stuff like that. But there's no cue. You're like, oh, where's my cue? because this is something that's built in with horror movies. You have like your audio cues, your music cues, there's build up and stuff like that, and that's the thing that makes this scene even more terrifying. And then the cue, the music, it's, you could maybe class this as a jump scare, I guess, like how it works, but it's one that it's so effective. And that's the thing with this. It's like jump scares are so overdone. We all know that, especially when you make a film like The Nun, for example. It's just about the jump scare and it completely loses its effectiveness. But with this, you don't expect a jump scare in this movie.
No.
It's so well done. It's so well done without showing anything as well.
Mm.
There's nothing to that scene apart from someone walking, and then they get followed with a giant pair of shears, and boom, that's it. And maybe that's something. It's like, because your brain is like, whoa, it's filling the blank in for you, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why that is so effective. Absolutely love it. So that would be my number 4.
I think when you get there, also you get kind of what I guess I would call like the sound of mundanity.
Sound of life. Yeah, just a
Yeah,
normal.
just everyday things. You hear like people walking down like hallways. You hear that all the time.
Mm.
And yeah, you're kind of primed to be like, okay, something scares come up. There should be a little bit of background music, just
Yeah.
fade in or something, and it comes completely out of left field. Yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah, the length of it, you're like, something's coming. Oh,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you start to think, oh, maybe it's not. Boom. The timing was brilliant, fantastic.
Oh
I
yeah.
I was lucky enough to see that in the theater when it was on its first run.
Oof.
Yes,
Nice.
and I can't remember how high off the chair I jumped at that scene, but man, that was I couldn't believe how lucky I was to just be watching that, and I can't remember, it was a weird thing, something, I don't know, something was going on, and I just was able to just where I lived in New York, in a small town, if you wanted to go to the good theater, you had to go to Erie, Pennsylvania, which was about a 45-minute jaunt down the highway. And so off down the highway I went, and that was quite an experience seeing that, man.
Honestly, that's one of those scenes that if you don't jump at that scene, you don't have a soul. I mean, like you really don't. I mean, there's just something about it. It's one of the few perfect jump scares in a movie.
Yeah, really is.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those movies, even today, the conversations that take place between
George C. Scott.
George C. Scott and Father Dyer are some of the best conversational pieces I can think of in any movie.
Yeah.
His whole story about the carp swimming up the up and down the tub.
Oh,
That is one. I love it when he sort of leans in a little bit. He's like, "You notice, right? Yes, I haven't had a shower in 3 days on account of the carp. I can't go home because if I go home, I'm going to kill it." That's so classic.
oh.
I freaking love
I'm
that
glad
movie.
that movie's finally finding its audience, because there was a long time where, it wasn't really looked at as a great movie, but I'm glad people are starting to realize how good it is.
Do you think that's because the end? Do you think maybe? Or maybe, I'm not sure.
I think essentially, well, the ending of it feels very tacked on, at least the theatrical ending.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah,
like it's
where
a
they
long
throw in
time.
an exorcist.
Mm.
Throw in an exorcism just because it's called The Exorcist. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is a big part of it. Once people saw, the Legion cut, they started being like, oh, wait a minute. There's something more here than we were really thinking.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal movie.
Oh, utterly fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget what's his name there.
Brad Dourif.
Yeah, those moments of dialogue, man. I love it when he gets to the end of that one rant. He's like, "Oh gracious me, was I raving?
Oh
It's
yeah,
so freaking epic, man. He's freaking awesome.
he is. He's such a good actor.
All right, you ready? My number 4 is going to be my one and only Italian moment. So, and it's probably not even going to be what you think it is. From Lamberto Bava, Demons 2. And the
Oh,
sequence that still gets under my skin, and I still have a hard time with it, is funny enough, is the demon through the TV sequence. And I think it's just the whole piece where it's not that you're just seeing the movie within a movie via through a TV screen, but it takes you into it. So you're actually there. And then you may see it from the perspective of a TV screen, but being there, you have that incredible throwback to his dad's Black Sunday and how that initial demon comes to life. But from the moment that demon starts peering through the screen and seeing her, and she sees it, and she's sort of transfixed, and it just kind of moves, like we said earlier tonight. It's just that slow moving to the screen, and I'm telling you, it's got to be one of the most flawless executions of practical special effects, of seeing something from some other world just slowly push its way through a TV screen. And the icing on the cake is, of course, when she thinks everything's fine and she turns and it's right there in her room.
Oh yeah.
I think that just the overall sense of that scene, that something really could reach into your world from another world. It's executed so flawlessly. I don't know how many movies can do a scene like that and get it so right. And that one, I think, is done so right. And if anyone in this room has it on 4K, I'm envious, because I would love to see it in 4K. How does that scene look, Lonnie?
It looks really good. Yeah.
That is about as perfect of as an execution of a fantastical moment in film. To pull it off like that is so that is my tipping of the hat to Italian cinema, my only one, because I didn't want to just make mine a love fest to Italian cinema, which would have been really easy to do. But
maybe that's the
Sam's,
perfect horror scene for someone that hates horror movies.
yeah,
If you're already scared of horror movies and don't want to look at the screen, you imagine that coming out of the screen.
yeah.
Peak
And,
horror.
and if you were really trying to comment on the effects of our intake of cinema, that's the perfect scene. To make you think about what we potentially, I don't know, may or may not be consuming. I don't know. But Sam's number 4 was well, look, I just sort of mentioned it. City of the Living Dead, and it's the vomit scene when she's puking up her innards.
Yeah.
And yeah, that scene always I think more than anything in that movie, though, for me, though, was just the Frizzy score. Because right from the very, very, beginning, it grabs a hold of something inside of you and grabs you and just says, you ain't going anywhere for the next hour and some odd minutes. So just stay in place. But so
Do you think
Sam's,
that's something where maybe like the soundtrack and the just overall how it's filmed and the atmosphere is actually more scary than any scene in it?
yeah,
Because you can get that. You just get drawn into the atmosphere of a movie and you get drawn into the dread of it. Maybe it's one of those. It's like, with horror, it can be like when there's something unseen, it's less scary when you see it. So maybe the atmosphere and the build up is more scary than some of the whole scenes in the movie. Maybe that movie is one because it's so
and that
atmospheric.
is a miracle of movie making. I have stood in that cemetery in broad
Yes.
daylight and thinking to myself, my God, how did they take being here in this moment and translate it to maybe one of, well, I think it's the greatest horror movie ever. But I mean, that is the magic of movie making, when you can do that. And go back to Night of the Living Dead. I've been in that cemetery too, and that is an amazing cemetery to stand in, and just consider some of the camera angles possibly, and where they were looking, and how that translates into film is amazing. I mean, it's the beautiful part of filmmaking. It's seeing these things come to life like this. And
that is interesting, because you think a cemetery, it's a place of love. It's like you go to it because you want to be there, and they're not scary places, yet movies make them look terrifying.
Mm.
Yeah,
Cemetery in the daytime isn't terrifying.
very peaceful, very.
Yeah, but then stick it in a movie, atmosphere, nighttime, smoke machine, zombies.
All right, Lonnie.
Okay. For my number 4, I decided to go with, hopefully you guys can see this. Unfortunately, I just moved just for a second to try to get a little bit more comfortable. Now I got the damn blur back. So hopefully you guys can see which one I'm holding up. It is The Fall.
Ooh, yeah,
Ooh,
you can
nice.
see it.
Okay,
It's a
good.
nice steelbook.
Yeah. No, there we go.
There we go. Yep.
Gotta hold it just right. So, but anyway, you guys know what it is. So, yeah, Fog. Just that movie to me is like from the very get go, from the very beginning of the movie, all the way through. Just such spooky ambiance, and just opening with John Houseman telling that ghost story, and then of course you got John Carpenter's score and everything else, and then you start seeing like all things that are just getting weird, seeing like furniture moving and cars starting and all that kind of stuff. And then, as the movie progresses, just, like the whole movie just, keeps me just chilled to the bone the entire time. And then, especially when you're getting into the third act, and like Adrienne Barbeau is like, at the radio station, she's trying to tell everybody, get away from the fog and stay away from it. And then she gets that look, where she sees it's coming over, down towards the lighthouse. It's coming to her, and everything. It's like, oh shit, and then like when Jamie Lee Curtis, the kid, and Tom Atkins are in the truck, and they see the fog is coming in, they have to back out and drive another way. And, they get up to the church, and you see it like coming up the road, and you can start seeing the shadow figures inside of it and everything else. And I just remember that movie just always spooked me, and just like I mean, I know it's supposed to be a spooky ghost story, and it is. It is just so well made. Even though, like, I know Carpenter said at first, like, we made the movie, and I was like, nah, this doesn't work. We need to fix it. We need to go back. It's like, well, fix it. They did, and it's like now the movie is so scary, and just all the way through. And just everybody in that movie sells it. So and just all like a great old fashioned ghost story and everything. So. But yeah, so for my number 4, it's going to have to be John Carpenter's The Fog.
I was lucky enough to see that at the drive-in when I was a kid. It was on a rerunning again, I think, but it was double billed with the Legacy.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was I think for my, I can't remember, either 12th or 13th birthday present. All I wanted was to see The Fog at the drive-in, and so we had a sort of a makeshift birthday party at the drive-in. So that was a memory that lasts forever. I'll never forget that. It's great.
Nice. Okay, number 3. Everyone knows this one's coming probably. Pet Cemetery. It's the Zelda scene, let's be honest. That scene is terrifying. It actually, let me put it this way, I bought the VHS of this when I was a kid, and I took it back and traded it for a Hellraiser movie. Because it bothered me, and I don't know what it was about the scene, but there was just something about it just really got under my skin. And also then, you go on and you watch the movie, and there's a lot of scenes in here that are scary. But I've said this before. You know, the reason Pet Sematary is scary isn't the reason that people think it is. It's one of the reasons why the remake didn't really work. You know, because it's not scary because of like these zombie people. It's not scary because of like an undead kid. It's scary because anyone who's lost somebody, what wouldn't you give to get them back? You know, and also just the thought of the question, what if? What if this time it works? You know, Louis Creed loses everything in this movie, and still at the end, what if it works this time? What if I take my wife up there and bury her? She just died. Maybe something it will be different. It's kind of insidious that way, and hence the reason it falls on this list. It's a movie that is a really well-made movie that I wish, like when I was a kid, I always wished that it wasn't a well-made movie. Then I could have just like been like, I don't like that movie. Don't got to worry about it. But the fact that it was so good, even though it scared the crap out of me, it was like, ugh. Like how do I wrap my head around this? How do I enjoy this movie that's a really good movie, even though it scares the crap out of me? You know, I figured it out eventually, but it took a while. Yeah, that's my number 3.
Nice.
Great choice. Right. So following that, so I must have been about 5, maybe 5 or 6 maybe. So my dad recorded something on the VHS, but my mum didn't know that he wasn't sure to show it me or not. So she just gave me this movie to watch, and I watched 10 minutes of it. I was like, Mum, I don't think I should be watching this movie. Scared the shit out of me. A few years later, my dad bought it on VHS for me, thinking I was okay about it now. The same thing happened. I had to take it back and change it for Kindergarten Cop. The opening scene to An American Werewolf in London. A 5-year-old, not knowing what the movie is, watches that. I had no idea. That ingrained on me so much. It's a fantastic movie. It's fantastically shot, and the love for it I have now. The sheer terror I had. I had no idea it was a horror movie or werewolves or anything like that. It's like, my mum was like, your dad taped this for you. You can watch it now if you want. Wasn't even in the room with me.
There you go.
Watching someone torn to pieces by a werewolf. Wow. Wow. Yeah, there's no way it could not be in my top 5. So there we go. The opening for An American Werewolf in London.
Nice.
James,
Yeah.
you just gave me chills, man. Number 3.
I was going to say we've had no repeats. There we go.
You know, the first time I saw this on VHS, the Nazi demon nightmare sequence, to this day, and think about this, it's John Landis. This comes from John Landis. This scene not only holds up, all the scenes in there hold up perfectly. The entire movie holds up perfectly.
Yeah.
But that nightmare sequence is such a ferocious, quick hitting few seconds of just absolute terror. Because the scenes move so fast. I mean, when they start firing their machine guns and mowing down the little ones, and the one mows down Mom, the other's got David by the head, making them watch the whole thing, and and as a kid, of course, it's just the nightmarish horror of it that just shocked me. but it made me want to watch it over and over and over. And I'm like, James, I couldn't get enough of this movie. This movie was just like, this is insane. Piccadilly Circus is one of my favorite moments in any movie, man. I love when he's like, there's a disturbance in Piccadilly Circus, and you see the werewolf man on and it's my favorite. I think it's funny between that and The Howling are two of my favorite werewolves. The subway. I mean, that whole sequence and how it's shot is so tension riddled. But I think I love the well, love is a weird word, but that nightmare sequence probably gets under my skin more today because I understand the implications of, I think, what John Landis was trying to hit at, and that is when something really, really, really horrible happens, not just to a person, but to a people. You think of the Holocaust, it can survive as bad baggage in really bad ways. And and I actually rewatched that scene tonight, and you can see a menorah on the bookcase as they're shooting them up, and all I keep thinking of is, how many Jewish homes did that really happen in?
Yeah.
But it was Gestapo, SS troops coming in, breaking everything down and dragging the kids out and all of that. And so I mean, from a horror, fantasy point of view, but David's got to be, his conversations with his buddy are, I mean, so memorable. I mean, but yeah, in America, and it's right, John Landis. We just watched. Did he do? Yeah, I think, didn't he do the Three Amigos?
I think so.
Yeah.
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 And I think that that's something else, though, that, sorry to interrupt, but I think that that's something else that really like adds even more to the scare factor of American Werewolf in London is like, John Landis from his comedy career. You think, okay, this is the guy that made Animal House and Blues Brothers, Three Amigos, Coming to America, and stuff like that. So if you're going into American Werewolf and that's the John Landis that you're thinking about, you go into it, it's such a shock to see. It's like, yeah, it's funny, but holy God, this movie is scary as hell. And it's I think that kind of adds even more to it because I think you're going in, it's like, well, it's John Landis, it's going to be funny. It's like, yeah, it's funny, but it scares the living crap out of you at the same time. And you have arguably not even arguably, but you have the best, most definitive werewolf transformation in movie history. And nobody's even been able to top it since. So, sorry.
So James, how old were you when you finally got through the whole thing?
I don't actually know. I'm not sure. I think I got the VHS maybe around like my 8th birthday or something. So 3 years after, I still wasn't ready. Maybe I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. I can't actually remember when I actually was brave enough to revisit.
That's funny.
But one of my favorites now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't think it was possible that we would have a moment where we would actually hit the same one. I didn't even think that was possible. Wow.
And also, just got to say, if you watch like the behind the scenes footage of that, it's hilarious just to see John Landis in London trying to tell people how he wants this head to land on the hood of the car, and he can't get it across to people because they don't say hood, they say bonnet. I just love that. He's just like I'm like, I wanted to land on the hood. They're like staring at him. He's like this. Oh, oh, I love it.
All right, Sam's number 3, and must be the entire film. First time he watched it, The Woman in Black.
Nice. I'm guessing the remake.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, yeah.
That Daniel Radcliffe in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw. I don't remember it actually being creepier than I thought it would be.
I tell you what, you want that creepy? Just turn off the color. Watch it in black and white. Actually made Rob a DVD of that, if I remember right. With the color stripped out. It's effective.
Nice.
It seems like the almost black and white in and of itself. Just watching it in color, that's a,
Yeah.
movie almost has a consistent like black and white almost feel about throughout the whole way. You know?
Oh,
Definitely
by the way, did you guys know that when I was rewatching scenes tonight, real quick, I was watching part of the House of a Thousand Corpses scene towards the end, and I have an issue. Sometimes my DVDs down here, for whatever reason, I have an audio issue where I have to change the audio track that it's on.
Okay.
And I discovered accidentally, just because I was needing to just hear it, but there is a, I think there's an audio track without words, just the music, the score.
the music.
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah, because I was watching it for a few minutes and I wasn't hearing Baby talk at all, and she's stabbing her, and there was no sound except for then the music would start to kick in, but there was no sound other than that, and I thought, that's weird. Is there a track on here I didn't know about?
I
So
the score track.
yeah. So then that what did you say, Lonnie?
It's an isolated score track.
Oh, is that what that is?
Usually, yeah.
Okay, I have that on a few of my things, but I never think to use it.
Yeah.
In-
A lot of-
Interesting. All right, Lonnie.
Okay. So for my number 3, this TV movie, I remember watching it just like from the very opening scene, just the music, just kind of like, ooh, gives you the chills and everything. That is Dark Knight. Oh, come on.
Ooh, cool.
Come on. Anyway, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. That's what I'm trying to do.
try moving it in front of your face because like your face is in.
How about that?
No, now it's flips on your behind.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Anyway, sorry about that, guys. Just it happened again. But anyway, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. That's the movie. Yeah, just the movie is scary. Like the music score threat, and it's like this easily has to be one of the best made-for-TV horror movies I've ever seen. And I mean, of course, it's not bloody or gory because it's from the 1970s, but it's just so effectively creepy. And just probably the best scene that I could think of is the scene that takes place at the grain silo, where I think it's Claude Earl Jones, his character, like he's there, it's nighttime, he's working late and everything. He starts hearing things, and it's like he's going out, he's looking around and he's hearing noises and stuff like this. And like he's heading back to his office, and he can see like there's like a figure standing inside of his office and turns the light off. And he's like, holy cow, I'm out of here. So he goes and tries to get into his car, and he's trying to get away, but the car won't start. And so but then he's like hearing this coming closer and closer and everything. He locks himself inside of a grain silo, and then it starts putting the grain in there. It basically it covers him all the way up, and he can't get out. And just that scene is just so spooky, and especially if you're claustrophobic, that's definitely going to work on you. But just the movie is just so spooky in the way it's well done and everything else. And then what else too? And you got like Charles Durning's character is like like he just his character just goes from bad to worse as the movie goes on. I mean, by the end of the movie, he's willing to murder a child. That's how insane he gets and everything else. But yeah, just this movie is so spooky and so atmospheric. So yeah, and this is coming to 4K in September. I've already got my pre-order in for this one. So yeah, for my number 3, it's going to be Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, even though you can't see it.
Nice.
It's scary because you can't see it. Okay.
Well, don't they always say it's like the scariest things are the things they don't show you?
There you go.
Mm.
For my number 2 is a movie that I have championed ever since it came out. I honestly believe this is the scariest movie of the past 15 years. That is The Fear Footage.
Ah.
And what it is more than anything else is all what you would consider the wraparound, all the stuff from the police officer's body cam as he's going through this house. It's dead silent. No background music. We were talking about it before, and it's claustrophobic little house with so many blind corners. It's like walking in, there's a blind corner here, there's one over here, there's one over here, there's one over there. And and then when they do show you stuff, it's like something like I like something's coming upstairs. I don't want to know what that is. And it's creepy as hell. Like I said, scariest movie of the past 15 years. I honestly believe it. And it's so good. And so, I don't want to say underrated, because, people that see it seem to agree most of the time. I mean, yeah, we got some, kind of iffy CGI rain at one point. Probably would have been better without the rain, but I'll take that for what it is. All in all, really creepy movie and genuinely scary. So yeah, that's my number 2.
Goody. I need to rewatch that. I know Will is a big fan of that as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. So by the way, is my video okay? Is it going a bit funny at times?
No.
No, it's
Because
fine.
occasionally you guys are dropping out a little bit, so it's my end. So it's okay that you're seeing everything all right. So my number 2. This was tricky not to have as my number 1. But I think this is so effective because it's something that basically all but one of the actors knew that this was coming. So my favorite movie of all time, it's the chestburster scene, and the effectiveness of no one knowing that this is coming and their faces. It's so well done. It's I mean, yeah. Well, I think the winner for me is Veronica Cartwright. How she reacts to this, it's so freaking good. I mean, I don't need to talk about it. This is probably maybe the most famous horror scenes of all time. Maybe it could be. So my favorite movie, probably one of my favorite scenes of all time. I think we all love this, so I'm not going to go on about that one. So it's Alien chestburster scene.
Man, I don't know what that movie would have been like without H.R. Geiger and his influence, or the score, or everything. That is an amazing.
Little green man is the alien.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sort of what James just said. I'll piggyback off a little bit. Not the same movie though. These two films, I could not decide for the life of me which should be 2, which should be 1, which should be 1, which should be 2. And I think I just got to the point where, well, where am I? I don't know. Where am I with the films today? How do I approach them today? What lasting impact has each had on my life? And so I think the one outweighed the other in terms of long-term impact. Even though it's my favorite movie ever, well, depending on what day it is. But for number 2, I saw this movie way too young. It traumatized the freaking crap out of me, gave me freaking nightmares. And I'm so stupid, just like when I get off a roller coaster after screaming, I have to get right back on and traumatize myself again with it. And so then I did on my floor of my living room in the middle of the night in front of my 25-inch console TV. And every time that metal door slammed shut, I thought to myself, my God, what am I doing to me? Tobe Hooper's 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie still bothers me today. And it is, unlike part 2, which is complete comfort food for me, I can put that movie on any time of the day, any day of the week, and love that movie from start to finish. But this movie, I gotta be in a weird mood. Because when I really want Texas in a serious way, I put this on, and I still, man, this movie has never. It's one of those rare movies that, as old as it has never let up in its ability to impact. You hear, all these stories, like it's so funny. I saw In a Violent Nature, you hear all those stories about people puking up in the cinemas, and I think half that's made up anyways. I don't know what half these kids would do if they sat in front of something like this. This is trauma inducing, man. And it's all editing. It's the power of a director who is just, and like a lot of the guys in the same time period were so pissed off at so much of the world they were looking at. He had to get it out of his system somehow, and this is what came out.
Mm-hmm.
And today, though, probably what intrigues me most is the little things about the movie that I really, really pay attention to. Whether it's the discussion about when they're at the was it the uncle's house or the granddad's house, and what's his name in the wheelchair?
Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin. Is talking about how they'd have the family reunions back in the day, and back when the river was full, and they'd go down to the creek and swim in the swimming hole, and you're thinking the Sawyer farm is just over, and it just begs so much of what was life like then. What was life like for the Sawyers at that time, that you could have life like that in so close proximity. And I don't know if any of the movies ever even tried to tap into any of that. But this movie works on so many different levels. And I was so lucky to pick this up on a Walmart shelf for $5 one day. I could not believe it. I mean, all the extras you get on this thing are just, I mean, in the infamous documentary that's on here, the Shocking Truth documentary. Yeah, this movie, man. This movie, man, I'm telling you what, it still packs a punch, man. Even today, from the very first moment it starts to the glorious dance in the middle of the street, man, with the chainsaw. That whole movie, man. Just, I think City's the greatest horror movie ever, but I think Chainsaw might be the scariest movie in history for me.
It's kind of interesting is usually whenever I hear anybody say that they prefer the 2000 remake over the original one, the main reason why is because they're like, it's not as scary. It's like, like when you watch the original movie, it's like you feel like you're in it. It feels, they always say it has like a documentary feel and stuff. People, like, yeah, the reason why I like the 2003 version better is because the whole time you're aware that you're watching a movie. It has a music, it has recognizable movie stars in it and everything else. Michael Bay produced it and everything else. It's like the original movie, it feels so real because it's really Texas. These are real Texans. It just everything, and they went and got Robert Burns went out and got bones and God knows what else to decorate the house and all that kind of stuff. And so that's one thing I think is interesting is usually whenever somebody says, yeah, I like the 2003 remake because it's nowhere near as scary as the original. So it's easy,
Yeah. If I want to mess with my brain, man, I just put that on. And it still messes with my head, man, some of the scenes. Sam's number 2 was and I would imagine it's the remake, but and I would imagine it's the entire film, The Grudge. And I think, like you said, these are all predicated on first time viewing, so I think that's kind of scared them. There's some scenes in there that are kind of creepy.
Oh yeah.
And isn't the girl that they use in The Grudge, doesn't she do her own contortions, or is that mainly CGI stuff?
No, yeah, she does it, I think.
Okay. Yeah. That's the
So
amazing
funny.
thing. Like the girl in The Possession of Hannah Grace did all her own contortionist work. Ashley Bell in The Last Exorcism did all her contortionist work. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing that they can find these girls to do these things. But
Interesting
Lonnie,
thing.
take us. Oh, go ahead.
Interesting thing about like The Last Exorcism, there's a whole when part 2 came out, there's this whole viral marketing campaign where they just had the girl and she'd be like in like a what's it called, like a hair salon, and then she'd just do a thing where she cranks her like over and then like just like chases people like arched backwards and everything. I think she actually broke her back doing it.
Oh,
She actually did some damage to her spinal bones, you know.
Wow.
But damn, it's an interesting little tidbit of information.
All right, Lonnie, take us home on number 2.
all right. So for my number 2, this is probably going to be a movie like people are going to be like, really? You were scared of that? But bear in mind, I was only 5 years old when I watched this the first time, and hopefully you guys can see it's Poltergeist.
Oh yeah.
Poltergeist, yeah. And yeah, you got to remember, it's like I know some people would be like, seriously, you got scared by Poltergeist? It's like I was 5 years old, for Christ's sake. You know, like if you watch that movie, there are so many terrible things happening to kids in them. And so, what do you think that's going to do to a 5-year-old? You know, you're seeing a kid almost being eaten alive by a tree and all this kind of stuff. You know, one kid gets pulled into the closet, is in the ghost dimension. They have to try to go get her out and everything else. And so that was a lot of it. Just, you know, like as a little kid, seeing all that traumatic stuff happening to little kids in that movie. And then, of course, the scene where Zelda Rubinstein comes in and just like, I can remember, you know, for the longest time, like if the movie was playing on TV, like if I walked into the room or something, and Zelda Rubinstein is giving that speech where she's like, you know, so much rage to us, it is the beast, you know, it's like hearing that's like, I would book it, it just scared the hell out of me. It just creeped me out so much, you know. And then it's like you go through all that, and then it's like, you go through all that and you say, oh, okay, so they got her back. They're moving from the house. Everything's going. But then it goes for another 20 minutes where all hell's breaking. Well, and then, you know, the kid with the clown doll being dragged under the bed and everything else. So yeah, that movie, you know, and I never forgotten that. And I know there are people like, I've had people, you know, like, oh my God, The Exorcist scared the shit out of me, or I got creeped out so bad by The Conjuring. And I would say, yeah, when I was 5 years old, I watched Poltergeist. It freaked me the hell out of there. Poltergeist? Yeah. I was like,
I can definitely see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Easy. You know, that movie probably marked that was one of the last movies where I remember as a kid, because I was 12 when it came out, where it was mandatory family viewing. Like the whole family, my dad would make his famous popcorn on the stove, and and the whole family would get together, and we would all be in the living room together watching Poltergeist. And that's a movie very, very near and dear to my heart, because a lot of that actually reminds me of the better moments. Remind me of my parents and their better moments, not in all the moments, but in the better moments. That's good pick. Poltergeist, classic. Definitely.
And then when you think also though about like what happened to the older sister in real life,
Yeah.
you know, and it just kind of adds to this like mystique of everything. It's like, damn.
one thing I thought was kind of funny though was when they were talking, because see, you know, like this here, you know, I got the 4K, and all there is just let's see, they are here. The real world Poltergeist documentary, 2 parts. The making of Poltergeist, like a little, like just few minute featurette, and then theatrical trailer. For years, everybody was mad because they wanted, you know, hey, you know, Poltergeist is such a big movie. We need to have, you know, the big collector's edition. We need documentaries. We need, you know, deleted scenes. We need all this other kind of stuff and everything else. And Spielberg is the one who's like, no, it's not going to happen. And they're like, what? Why? And everything else. because Tobe Hooper was the director of that movie, and you tried to take the credit away from him. So no, I thought that was incredible. Because like everybody tried to make it out. Oh yeah, that guy who did Texas Chainsaw, screw him. It's Spielberg. It's him the whole way, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, Spielberg. He just didn't want to be pigeonholed as a horror director, so that's why he brought Tobe Hooper in. But Hooper didn't do crap. It was Spielberg all the way, and everything else. And Spielberg, like, no, we're never doing a collector. Because that's what's going to happen. You guys are going to take away the credit that rightfully belongs to Tobe. Try to give it to me, and he's like, that's not fair. That's not right to Tobe. He was the director of the movie, and so that's why now everybody's like, well, damn, we're never going to get the big collector's edition and all that. It's like, everybody should have kept their mouth shut.
I think a thing with that is something I brought up to Rob when we did the show on Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Hills Have Eyes. I watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind for that show was the first time I really saw how people could think, okay, yeah, Spielberg directed Poltergeist, because there is some crossover in like effects and in like different elements. But then, you watch Salem's Lot and you're like, okay, you can see a lot of crossover there as well, so it's
like, also too, you gotta Spielberg wrote and produced Poltergeist, so obviously it's gonna feel like a Spielberg respect. So
yeah.
No, but you're right, Lonnie, though. I remember listening to I think it was what was it? Mick Garris maybe was hosting Bill Moseley and what's her the girl who plays Stretch on TCM2. Caroline. Yeah, those two, and that topic came up, and those two, man. I mean, she got visibly shaken. She was so upset just by the idea of what people have said to Tobe, in light of, well, that's not really his movie kind of thing. And I can't remember how they got into that part of the conversation, but you could tell, boy, they both, because of their relationship to Tobe and knowing Tobe, and even people outside of the Poltergeist circle took exception to how he was treated and all of that. And that's yeah, and that's tough to listen to when you could tell people are visibly upset, and angry, but that's how people are today.
we even mentioned it that one time on the group chat where Mick Garris, I think it was at Postmortem, he interviewed Tobe Hooper, and he says, yeah, he's like, I remember because I was working as a journalist for like a science fiction fantasy magazine and stuff, and they sent me there to the set one day to do an interview, and he's like, I'm here to tell you, as someone who is an eyewitness, someone who was there on the set that day, he's like, this was the scene where they were filming in the kitchen where she goes to get the cleaner and stuff. She turns around, all the chairs are stacked on top of the table and stuff. And he's like, I'm here to tell you, Spielberg was nowhere in sight that day. He was not there. Tobe was the director. He was the one running the show. He called the shots. And so he's like, I'm here to tell you, somebody who was there and saw it, Okay.
Wow, are we at number one?
Yeah, number one. So number one is probably not going to come to a surprise for a lot of people. The Exorcist, the original. I'll start this off by saying I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church or anything like that. But what makes The Exorcist so scary is the thought of, what if it's all real? What if all like the stories and everything, like all like the things that religion have been saying, what if it's actually true? And that's a creepy thought, Also, the movie itself. It's a beautiful movie. It's gorgeous. The acting is phenomenal from everyone, even down to like little, the guy that's in there for like 10 seconds, and then like the guy who plays the director, he's in there for like 10 seconds, but he brings it. He brings such good acting to it. The effects are top notch, and they are terrifying. Honestly, there's a reason why, those screamer videos you see, like people get someone to go to a link and they'll be watching like a little worm do something, and then it'll just be like a shot of Reagan's face and it'll terrify people. There's a reason that is the face that they use. It's genuinely unnerving. And that's something about The Exorcist. It's genuinely unnerving. I always heard the stories about, people coming out and like, throwing up and fainting or whatever. The Exorcist is probably the only movie where I can believe it. I can believe someone going in there who's maybe like I'll say a lapsed Catholic, perhaps, and seeing this movie and being very disturbed by what they see. I could see that. Also, everything feels real. The characters feel real. Nothing feels like a set. It feels like an actual bedroom. It feels like this is like an actual house. And there's just something about that, like the sheer documentary style of how it's filmed is just phenomenal and terrifying. And to this day, I watch this movie every year, usually on Devil's Night, funnily enough. But every year I watch The Exorcist, and it never fails, to give you the goosebumps, And there's just something about it that just sticks with you. And I don't know what else to say. It's just that damn good. And honestly, that's something I found. What can make something really scary is the level of professionalism that's brought to make it. Like, you can have the most scariest idea in the world, but if you get like a crappy effects artist to do it, or if you get the wrong director, or if you get the wrong writer, it's not going to work. Exorcist had everything. And I think there's a reason why people say it's the scariest film of all time. Maybe not for the same reasons, but I can definitely see it. But yeah, that's my number one.
Wow.
Excellent. That's interesting how you put that as well. It's like, I wonder if you have to, well, it's really hard to gauge, but if you have two almost identical people with their same ideas about movies, one has a religious belief and one doesn't, it's like how it's viewed, how it's differently viewed, how you take it on board. It's interesting. Yeah. But fantastic movie. Okay then, my number one. So yeah, I had to leave some big hitters off the list. Like, I was just scribbling some down, thinking like The Ring, Jaws, 28 Days Later, Wreck, Hereditary, It Follows, all these different ones. But this movie I saw in the cinema. This movie had a fantastic marketing to it. And I did not know, because of how well it was done and how ahead of its time, everything, it's so many. You've even mentioned marketing and how it's done now, and like I love what Smile did. I love that. I remember seeing this still from a baseball game. It was in the news. You got someone just stood there doing this freaky smile. This was the movie that really tapped into that for the first time, and going into the cinema, not knowing that this wasn't real, terrified me. And I was like 18, 19 at the time.
Oh yeah.
This,
Nice.
I did not know until after. I was like, what am I watching? I had no idea. I was fooled. I was fooled. I was naive, 18, 19-year-old, not knowing. Well, like, I think this got many people, like I said, the marketing and how it was done, it was like truly ahead of its time. And now it's common practice to do stuff like this. But they were so clever. What was it? It's Daniel Merrick and Eduardo Sanchez. These guys were so clever with what they did. Whatever team they had around them, the ideas to be able to market this, and then how they put this together. We have no budget. How are we going to do this? The found footage works superb. Some are like, this is like the OG found footage. Some like the last broadcast. I mean, they're quite different movies. How in their certain areas how they're set up, but utterly terrifying. Like, you're stuck in the woods. I remember one of my best friends talking about this. He won't watch this movie because he gets freaked out by stuff, and he was like, what would you do? Like, you're in a tent, someone shaking it. He'd be like, just stab myself in the face. I'm like, that's as an adult, that was his reaction. He was like, I couldn't handle that. Couldn't handle it. It's like, it might be a prank in some kids outside. He's like, no, I couldn't handle that. Because you see these things, you see the burials, like they knock the stones over. You see the stones outside. One of you disappears. You see this package with blood, and you open it up. There's teeth, there's bits in there. It's like all the sounds, like you're stuck, you're lost, you're going around in circles. The psychological torment of what's going on in the house, just such a scary movie, and it's so effective, and it had to be my number one. So, Blair Witch Project.
Very nice.
I was lucky enough to see that in the cinema. And
did you know about it before? Were you like old school?
I mean, I think I was paying attention a little bit to some of the stuff that was going on online, as online was in its early form then.
Because it was early. Yeah.
But I think the thing that got me, it's one of my favorite endings of any movie. I love that ending. And a lot of people hate it, but I love it. I think it ended brilliant. Perfectly, because it left in your mind a question of what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if it's answered. I don't want it answered. It's like The Thing. What makes The Thing so great? It's how it ends. It's you know, leave questions out there. You know, if you know, why do you need everything, you know, answered for you? You get left with nothing to think about. And that movie, man, that movie, yeah, I'm so glad I saw the theater.
Oh yeah.
Sure. All right. My number one should not be a surprise to anyone. This movie, I'll jump off of what Lonnie said earlier. I saw this movie when I was 5, but I saw it in the movie theater. I saw it begrudgingly. My parents took me on a Saturday matinee. I was only 5, but that's because, as my mom tells the story, anytime the TV spot came on, I would literally throw a tantrum on the floor, kicking, begging, screaming that I was going to see this movie. I had to see this movie. I wanted to see this movie. And so finally, my mom just caved in one day on a Saturday matinee and said, all right, we're going to go. We're going to go to the movie theater and see Jaws. And for the entire length of the film, as my mom tells me, I screamed bloody murder. And my mom would look down at me, and she would grab hold of me, and she'd be like, if you don't shut your blank, 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 blank mouth, we are not leaving this theater. You are going to sit here. You are going to watch this movie. You screamed. You cried. We're here now. And I can almost kind of hear my mom faintly in a far away off distant place. That movie had such a far-reaching impact on me. To this very day, I have a hard time, if I'm at the ocean, just diving into a wave, because something deep inside of me tells me you're going to open your eyes and all you're going to see is a quick glistening of white and teeth, and that's all she wrote, man. I don't know, you know. Now, my stepbrother was with us, and we were about the same age. and funny as it was, he was fine during the whole movie. We get home though, later on that night. It's him screaming and crying that we have to have the light on all night. And I'm just like, oh, come on, will you just grow up? So it's kind of weird how that kind of just flipped off. But the fear, the this movie scared me so. I remember we were at Sherkston Beach on Ontario. You remember Sherkston Beach, Glenn?
I know the name. I just can't.
I think it was shut down after. I can't remember what was the reason, but we used to go there all the time. I was laying on my raft and I got a little too far out. I think I fell asleep or something, and something jarred me awake, and I realized, and I probably wasn't as near, or I mean, I probably wasn't as far from the shore as I thought I was. Of course, everything is that much, heightened when you're a kid, and I don't know. I was looking down at the water, and I swear I saw a shadow of something. It was probably just a stupid fish or something, but man, all I thought about was sharks. Not that I was in a lake, but sharks. And I'm telling you, I went into a panic fit. I fell off the raft. Guy had to literally pull me up out of the water, and I almost needed CPR because I almost started to drown. Later on, when Jaws 2 is getting ready to come out to the theater, I had a friend in school, and he's like, "Hey, we got to go see Jaws 2." I'm like, "Absolutely, we got to go see Jaws 2." But Jaws was going to come out like a week or two prior on a quick week-long run, or so, I don't know, maybe a short run. And he says, "But we got to go see Jaws. We got to go see Jaws first." Now, I'm, older then, so I'm what, 9? I think it comes out in 79. So I think I'm 9 or 10 or whatever, 9. And I'm like, begrudgingly, I'm like, okay. First few seconds into the title sequence, I literally had to get up and walk out of the theater to the lobby. That fear was still living inside of me of what it was like as a 5-year-old. And I don't know, man. But today it is, despite my fear, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. And my kids have grown up on it. We watched almost endlessly throughout the year. We go through marathons, and my kids know most of the dialogue to the movie. I probably know all of the dialogue to the movie. And Jaws is just one of those movies that, I mean, again, it was a family affair when it started showing up on TV on your Monday or ABC Monday night at the movies or whatever. We would all sit there as a family in the living room, watching. I think I've seen it 3 times in the last 10 years in the theater on its anniversary runs.
Nice.
Never gets dull. I saw it one time at here in Atlanta at the Fox Theater. And the crowd was so cool because it was one of those crowds where it was like every time a famous line was about to come, people started yelling out the line, and then the line would be delivered and people would start clapping, and it was one of those moments where you just did not care that people were talking during a movie. It was fun, it was just a fun, good time. But I think the 3 standout scenes for me is the rap, the boy. That traumatized the freaking crap out of me that could happen. The design of the dock, how the dock is carried out, and then the dock is used to sort of metaphorically show to be the shark, I think is freaking one of the most brilliant moves in cinema history, because you didn't need to see the shark at all. Just the fact that guy's on that dock going, swim, Charlie, take my word for it, swim. And you just like, swim. You're yelling at him, just swim, get up. And it's one of those moments where you're so glad the guy gets up on, and you love the line where he's like, can we go home now? I mean, it's just so freaking, and the opening. And I think for me, the opening sequence is it's tragic more for me now, I think, because I never would have got this as a 5-year-old or as a 9, 10-year-old, 12 teenager. But, when you watch that scene and when Chrissy is about to get pulled under for the last time, the last word she utters is, "Please, God, help me." And there's no help. And I've always wondered what was going on in Spielberg, raised Jewish. I always wondered what was going on in his head when he filmed that. What was he implying? What was he thinking? What was he suggesting? What was he, and from that point on, it's a story of how is man going to overcome this obstacle without God or anything else. How is man going to overcome this obstacle? In the end, it's a man-made victory of sorts. It's a movie that continues to grow, and it provokes thought and just makes you think. But I mean, in the end of the day, it's I don't know where that came from.
It's the hand gestures. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's weird.
isn't it like
That happens
some
right.
areas over some areas like different people over the years, and isn't like a shark seen as a god? So maybe it's Spielberg's trying to kind of tapping into there. It's like the age of a shark. They're millions of years old in evolution and things like that. It's older than a god, maybe. You don't know why. Or is it just a popular phrase to say in a movie? Yeah, it's interesting. But it really hit the nail on the head.
It's really weird too when you think about Poltergeist. A similar line is uttered, and yet there is a sense of deliverance. You're not sure by what hand, but there is deliverance when she's holding on to the kids or holding on to the bed, the blanket of the bed at the end, and she's like, "Please, God, help me!" And she's able to get out, and they're able to get out, and ultimately, not thinking about the sequels that come down the line, but I mean, at least for the moment, a family's wise enough to throw the TV out there, motel room, which is brilliant, But Jaws is, and earlier I said, depending on what day it is, The Thing, of course, is my other, favorite film. But Jaws, just because of the fear, and maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing at 12 years old when I was clamoring to get in to see The Thing. I wasn't able to get in because my friend chickened out. I don't know what that movie would have done to me at 12, man, but I don't know. I'll never know because I didn't get to see it. But I know what Jaws did to me at 5. It's because it still lives with me. So, but I do love it. Oh, Sam, number one, you might help. You guys might have to help me with the scene in question. But his number one film, and I guess for anyone watching, which there will be, I guess you got to take age into consideration. Sam's my son; he is a lot younger, so his films have been a little bit different. But his number one film was Mama, and the scene in question, which I guess really, really bothered him, was the psychiatrist in Mama's house. You guys remember the scene?
No.
I've not seen it for a few years now, but I remember it being pretty effective. It's a creepy movie. So is Del Toro something to do with that movie? I can't remember.
I think it's a Guillermo del Toro produced film, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly I can't remember the scene. But like I said, I do remember that it was effectively a creepy movie. And the age of what that movie is, I imagine Sam was pretty young when he saw that. So
he was.
Yeah, I can see where he's probably coming from with that.
So far we've got The Exorcist, The Blair Witch Project, Jaws, Mama. All right, Lonnie, take us home.
Okay, for my number one, what I consider scariest, yeah, well, I'll get into it in a second, but from 1974, I picked Black Christmas. The reason why, okay, this movie, it's amazing. I love it to death. The reason why I picked it for my number one is because I told you guys this story before when we were doing a group chat. The first time I saw the movie, I was like 18 or 19, and I was cocky. I thought like, I've seen it all. There's nothing there that could scare me. No, it's like, been there, done that, got bored with it, and all this kind of stuff. Nothing could affect me. I figured I was beyond it all. And then my mother, she talked about it. You ever seen this movie Black Christmas? Like, yeah, I've heard about it. I heard about it in Fangoria and stuff, but I never watched it. And she was like, well, you want to sit down and watch it? And she's like, Bob Clark did it. And I was like, oh, Bob Clark, okay, I like his movies, so yeah, we'll sit down, we'll watch it. And so at the time, I was just kind of like, this was before I ever saw Death Dream or Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. I knew Bob Clark from like Porky's 2, Christmas Story, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, yeah, okay. So we sat down and I watched it, and I could not believe how damn scared I was watching it. And it was so effective. Like when they get the phone calls in the house, and the stuff that the things that he's screeching and saying, and all that kind of stuff, and that he's in the house the whole time, and just what tiny little bit that passes for like a music score is so effective, and it's so haunting, and it sticks in your brain, and the fact that like he's in there, and that like they're looking for this girl, and the whole time her body is up in the attic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also too, it kind of helps you accept the horror with the fact that Clark always puts humor into everything he did. So you got the fellatio scene at the police station. You got the house mother. Got the house mother. Claude, you little prick, in the guy, because
It's like, it's so kind.
all that. And so it's like and it's kind of like it's such a great example of like using a little bit of humor to lower your guard, so when it really starts to amp up the scariness, it gets to you.
Yeah.
And of course, like the movie is so beautifully shot, and then of course Margot Kidder's death scene, and easily, one of the scariest. And I think this, for any horror movie fan, easily has to be one of the scariest things of all time, is when Olivia Hussey opens that door and she looks, and you see the eyes staring at her through the door.
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's you, Billy," and all that stuff. And then, like, okay, the movie's over, and and we're all horror fans, so we always expect Final Girl. And then, and John Saxon's character, makes the point of, he must have, every time he committed a murder, he must have called on the phone line afterward. And then at the end of the movie, you realize, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, but you realize, like, they didn't get him. He's still in the attic, and it's like, at the end of the movie, the camera's pulling away, and all you hear is the telephone ring, and it's like, I remember watching that. I was like, and like I said, I thought nothing could get to me. I thought nothing could unsettle me or genuinely, but that movie did, and I think that's why I had to put it at number one. Was at a time when like I felt like nothing could bother me and everything, and this movie got me, and it got me good. So I think that's why I had to put it at my number one. So Black Christmas.
Well, I mean, hell, it had that what was it, the tagline, if this one doesn't scare you, your skin's on too tight.
Right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it amazing what Bob Clark was able to? I mean, that movie is unsettling to me the minute it starts. Just hearing the Christmas music.
Mhm.
And the slow coming up to the sorority house or whatever, and just, yeah, that's John freaking Saxon. God, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Everybody said,
you all have heard the theory, right? That the character in Rise of Leslie Vernon is actually the Billy character, not Leslie Vernon, but the guy that he goes to see, the guy and his wife.
Oh yeah,
that is Billy and the girl.
Wow,
that he essentially
never heard that.
And now they're married, and they're just doing their thing. Yeah, there's a whole like theory about that.
Weird.
It's kind of neat.
That's a great movie as well. Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah.
I think my favorite antidote to that movie is hearing Bob Clark talk about how John Carpenter called him up and asked him repeatedly if he was planning on doing a sequel, and then finally got to the point where, well, if you did, what would it be? And that becomes the semblance of Halloween.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was
any extras on this one.
Oh, nice. Look at
Oh
that.
yes. God, that's incredible.
There's a booklet with that and everything, but I haven't seen. I don't know if you guys can see this particularly clearly, but this is what's on there. I don't know if there's anything new on there. I haven't really checked through this box set yet.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to make it out.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything new. It's probably ported over from different areas, but yeah, there is quite a lot of stuff on here. I only had like a German blue before. I never actually got the Scream Factory, so this was although it's only Blu-ray, it's not great for me. Yeah, I'll go through that at some point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Scream
it's a
Factory
great
was
box set.
because it had the old cut, not the old cut, the old transfer that was it MGM released on Blu-ray. They called it the Seasons Grievings Edition. They have all that on the second disc of the Scream Factory one, so
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. So like, if you didn't like what Scream did with it, just put in the old one. Wish they'd done that with the Thing.
But that's the thing, like on this here, the 4K is beautiful. They did a great job with the 4K transfer. And like James's set, I have to admit, if they ever redid that as like a 4K set, I would totally buy that again. I admit it, I would. Same thing like like with City of the Living Dead. I bought the standard from Cauldron, and then as soon as Arrow's putting out the beautiful big box 4K and everything else, I was like, I had to jump on that one.
Mhm.
So it's like, they did another box set like that, but do it with 4K, I would definitely see myself buying it again.
It's a shame it's blue only. Yeah, bit of a surprise maybe, but 101 is still fairly small, so I think the costs involved with the 4K, maybe it's just out of their reach still at the moment. But they're doing some nice stuff.
Expensive to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess it's not something that I mean, with Blu-ray, let's be honest, you can make your own Blu-rays. You can encode stuff at 1080 and it
Mhm.
looks good. I think 4K is just, I don't think we're at a point where like an independent type person or company really has the technology to do it on their own. So it's something you have to like send to a lab or whatever and have 4K
Yeah,
masters done and everything.
it's not a home kit. It's like you
No,
said,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
do it
not
yourself at home. Yeah.
yeah, not yet. When it does, and I'm sure it will get to that
Yeah,
point, we'll see a lot more 4K releases coming out because it'll be much easier to do.
yeah, and the cost comes right down, so then it's easier for everyone, and then everything is for 4K.
Way I could
Then,
tell.
then they'll release the 8K.
Well, one way I could definitely tell like that they're working up to it. Okay, take like Via Vision for example. Like for the longest time, Via Vision was just strictly DVD or Blu-ray, and it's like now they're starting to get into like putting out 4Ks. But what they're doing is they're just licensing the transfers over from Lionsgate or
Mhm.
Mhm.
But you could tell it's like baby steps. They got to get there. They're trying to get up to, and like they did Saw, they did Reservoir Dogs, The Mist, stuff like that. You could tell it's like, okay, yeah, it's exactly the same. Like if you have the Lionsgate 4Ks, nothing new. But now they're getting ready to put out American Psycho and stuff like that. So it's like you could tell it's like, yeah, you got to crawl before you walk. But
Mm.
yeah, you could tell it is.
One thing I always wish they would do is like when a company releases like a nice box set of something, and they know and that 4K is coming. I always think they should be like say you get like I don't know. Let me think like the Rec set, the
Mhm.
Scream Factory Rec set. I think each of those cases should have had a space in it where a 4K could go. And the idea would be,
You mean the Amaray case?
yeah, and
Yeah.
then just when when they eventually release it, have a thing like if you still have your proof of purchase or whatever, you can like send it in and you could get them at at a cheaper price, just the discs, and they'd come and then you just put them in.
It
with
won't make him as much money.
they wouldn't, but then again, maybe they would, because you got people that'll wait for the 4K, right? But if they knew, like, oh well, I can buy the Blu-ray box set now, and there's space in it already for the 4Ks, and then I could pay maybe like say like I don't know, like say $40 because it's 4 movies, $10 a movie sort of thing. I'm just throwing numbers out my ass here, if they knew they could do that, then all of a sudden they're buying that Blu-ray set when it comes out, and they're still getting like 40 for the 4Ks as well, so it would sort of be like a more consumer friendly way to double dip. Well, I always remember
I think that's the issue.
I remember
it's consumer friendly.
Yeah,
that's their problem.
There's one company, I forget who it was, but I remember if you bought like the movie on DVD, and when the Blu-ray came out, they had like a thing where you could send your DVD disc in, and they'd send you the Blu-ray, and you'd pay like the difference or whatever. I can't remember what company it was, but I remember that because when the Blu-ray came out, it was a whole thing, where you could like essentially trade up. You still had to pay, obviously. You couldn't just send them it like, give me a free movie. But like it was like $20 for the Blu-ray or whatever. It was like you send in your old DVD or whatever, and you got it for like I think it was like $11 or $12, something like that. You got a chunk off, and they got a thing back that they could then sell again. Each their own, but
I got one last quick question if you guys are up for it. Just
Okay.
a quick blurb off the top of your head. Unfortunately, Glenn, you got to go first. But is there a movie, and it doesn't matter who it would have been, but is there a movie you're surprised wasn't on the top 5? Go.
Martyrs.
Martyrs. Okay. James.
Considered it. Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Halloween.
The Shining.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, you definitely know you wouldn't get that one from me because I don't find that movie scary. But
I did think about Halloween, but by then my list was already pretty much done, and I got tired of the whole. But
yeah.
Also,
I mean, let's be honest. With everything we've chosen, it's stuff that, with the exception of a few of them, it's not stuff that people would normally think about. So maybe, people will watch this video and they'll be like, you know what? Maybe I'll go back and rewatch American Werewolf.
That's what I was hoping. I was hoping at the end of the night, that's what our top 5s would respectively be, and I think they have. I think it's quite a remarkable thing again that me and James hit the same number 2 or number 3, was it number 3? That's remarkable. I mean, people got to know watching this. We shared nothing with each other. We had no idea what we were doing.
But it's different scenes.
Yeah.
Same movie, but different scenes.
Yeah, and it is, everyone is affected or impacted by things differently, or so it's.
But also too, we've all worked together long enough. I think we kind of like, okay, I think Rob is going to go for this, so I'm not going to try that, or Glenn is going to go, or I think Glenn would probably pick this, so kind of like all this time that we've worked together, I think we all kind of know, like, have an idea of what our tastes are like, and if we were going to choose something, what our selections would be. So I think we kind of know that by now.
Was I the only one that went to Italian on one spot?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
But that's the thing, you know, too. It's kind of like, well, you don't want to go too much into Italian movies because you know that's Rob's area.
And that was one of the things that kind of was pushing me too. Is some of these movies I talk about endlessly so much. I didn't want to talk about it again tonight. So I thought long and hard about things that I can remember as a kid. Like with the whole cat under the bed thing. And all that stuff. That really.
Honestly,
Sam went Italian as well. Your son.
What,
Right.
Sam went Italian as well. You tell he's your son.
what's that?
You picked City of the Living Dead, remember?
Oh yeah.
I thought for sure you'd have Anthropophagus in there with the vat scene.
Actually, if I went Anthropophagus, it would be the hand through the ceiling. That scene always gets me too, man. It's just so. but again, it goes right in with all my other picks. There's moments of ferociousness, and that's what gets me sometimes is when something can happen so ferociously, and and you know it too. Where they're, I don't know how he knows where they are under the stupid roof, but God, that is effective though, man. When his hand just like just grabs her, starts pulling her freaking scalp off her head, and holy crap.
I think he can smell them.
Probably.
I think he has superhuman smell.
I'll tell you what I actually thought about a lot was stage fright. But I thought long and hard about, is there anything in there that like genuinely scared me? I think when I first fell into stage fright, it just amazed me. I don't know if there was anything in there that actually scared me. I just thought it was like one of the best movies I'd ever seen. Maybe when the girl gets pulled down through the thing and you hear her spinal cord start to be ripped apart, and that's pretty gnarly. But scary? I don't know. Gnarly. It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
Did you consider Dagon?
Huh?
Did you consider Dagon?
I did actually. Yeah, Dagon him was on my mind a little bit.
You might.
But
That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Freaking Stuart. Is it Stuart Gordon? Yeah, Stuart Gordon. Yeah. Maybe his most Lovecraftian film in terms of the original source material.
Yeah.
Easily. All right, guys, you ready to hit the stop on the record?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys know where to find us. I did drop our channels. Individual channels will be down in the show notes. If you're curious to go check out our individual channels, of course, you can find us all on BodyBags. Glenn's got Monday, and James has got Tuesday. I've got Wednesday. Sam's got Thursday, and Lonnie anchors Friday. And and all the little things that we do occasionally as well. So thank you for plugging in and checking it out, and at a whopping almost 2 hours and 28 minutes. So to everyone watching, thank you so much.
Yep.